G'day everyone. Mate, how good is this? We are already through 2 rounds of rugby league. I can't believe it. Honestly, I've been sitting here for 5 months waiting for the footy season to start. And just like that, we've already discussed the first week of the football. And now we've already had our second week go past us just like that. Guys, welcome to another episode of League Chat with the Stat. As you can tell, I'm trying to mix it up with the introductions here a little bit. But I really appreciate you tuning in for another episode. Look, round two. Had a lot of great moments. I'll be quite honest with you. From absolute nail-biting finishes to some very convincing wins. And like I said, it just had everything. A lot of improvements from different sides. A lot of sides going backwards. But I'm ready to discuss it all. Appreciate you joining in once again. Now, first things first, like we always do, just behind me, we look at the Nrl Ladder. Top of the table, the Newcastle Knights. Then you got the Panthers, the Broncos, and the Storm that round out the top four. The bottom four in the top eight are the Cowboys, Dragons, Eels, and the Chooks. And then in the bottom half here, you've got the Titans, Sharks, Bulldogs, and Raiders, all sitting on 2 points. And then the last four teams who are yet to win this year, the Rabbitohs, the Warriors, the Tigers, and the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. Now, let's get straight into what was a very, very crazy start to round two. The Storm 15 defeating the Rabbitohs 14. Look, it didn't really seem much of a thrilling contest until the last 15 minutes of the game. Melbourne Storm came out. Craig Bellamy's 500th game as a coach. For him to have won 351 games out of 500 is just insane. It's insane just how good of a coach he is and the impact he has had on this Melbourne Storm side over the many years he's been coaching. But they come out to prove a point, and they started off really hot, the Storm. Rabbitohs were very vulnerable in that first half. Now, just on the Storm, I really love the way they played this game. Now, they got the Rabbitohs straight through the middle. Harry Grant exposed them a couple of times. Every player was playing their role to perfection. Harry Grant especially had an absolute blinder. You know, that try he set up for Xavier Coates in the corner, then the line break he made, and then put the ball through for Munster to go in and score. Just moment plays and really good plays from the Storm, especially Harry Grant, first game of the season, really set the club and the fans alight for the first time playing in Melbourne in a few years as well. But look, they breezed through the Rabbitohs. You know, the Rabbitohs had no answers for anything that they were doing. And look, when it came to the second half of the game, the Storm just completely, kind of lost their cool a little bit. Justin Olam gets sin-binned. It was the second player to get sin-binned, and then the first player to get sin-binned was Tepai Morara. And look, playing the second half with 20 minutes, with only 12 men for 20 minutes, is very tough. And that's the only reason that the Rabbitohs came through and were able to get the game out to a tie. Now, the Rabbitohs did come in and score 3 tries in about 7 or 8 minutes. And in doing that, it brought them right back in the game. Latrell Mitchell missed about all the goals that he was meant to kick. He missed 3 goals. But I just knew that he was going to go in and kick that goal, that field goal, from 48 metres out. I just knew it. Last time he kicked the field goal from around about that far out, was playing for the Roosters against the Storm, and he sunk him about 20 metres in from touch. I knew he was going to strike it. It was just in me, even though he missed the 3 conversions, I knew he was going to hit it. But look, the Rabbitohs scored 3 tries in 10 minutes. And look, the Storm made a lot of errors, especially in that second half, especially down to 12 men. And the Rabbitohs came back and capitalised. All their players started to gain some big field position. They started to get a roll on. It became too little too late at the end with Ryan Pappenhausen slotting the field goal in the 82nd minute, about 30 or so out. But look, in terms of the whole game, you look at the Rabbitohs and they look so lost. They are really struggling with that direction. Now, I brought up Adam Reynolds and the impact he had last week and Wayne Bennett. I'm not going to hear him keep bringing that up every week. But Lachlan Ilias really needs to take on the line more. He looks afraid. He's kind of leaning towards Cody Walker to do all the work. Damien Cook came off as well with a bit of a calf injury for the first time. Not playing 80 minutes in a while. But there's a lot of pressure on those men. Damien Cook is under a lot of pressure to perform. Cody Walker, another player that's under a lot of pressure. Latrell came in, dropped a few balls, first game back, a bit rusty. I get it. But like I said, he missed those 3 goals, but he kicked that field goal to have that game out go into extra time. But it's those spine players that really need to step up, especially Cook and Walker. Ilias doesn't run at the line. Ilias is afraid to take on the line. He just looks to pass it on to a Murray or pass it on to a forward or pass it on to Walker. Walker can't play his natural game if the 7 isn't organised. And if the 7's afraid, Cody Walker is limited to what he can do. And we're starting to see a lot of that, especially with Cody Walker. He's very down on confidence. He's not the player we saw light up the season a few years, like last year. He was on fire last year. It was insane. But, I mean, come on. They need to step up. Damien Cook, who is meant to have one of the best running games as a hooker, it's completely disappeared. Obviously, Wayne Bennett got rid of it, but he's trying to bring that back, but he's not having that impact. The only time Rabbitohs had some serious impact was when the Rabbitohs took off Cook and put on Saliva Havili. And they started to get a massive roll on. He started to take on the line, started to make some big runs, big plays, big efforts in defense. And he almost single-handedly brought him back into the game. So it's around those big men that need a lift. The Rabbitohs completed at 61% in completions, very poor. And they made 19 errors. And look, I'm very lucky to be in the game, if I'm going to be honest with you. You can't drop the ball 20 times against Melbourne and get away with it. Somehow they almost did. Because Melbourne were equally not the best as well in that second half. But the Rabbitohs have to be better. Demetrio needs to come up with something and fast. The pressure's already mounting on him. It's only been 2 games, and already in his short coaching career, he doesn't have a single victory. And he was touted as the next successor to Wayne Bennett. But I'm not a fan of Demetrio already. And one thing that really frustrated me was seeing Saliva Havili start at lock over Cameron Murray. If Cameron Murray is your captain and the sole leader and the sole captain of your club, he is to be starting. It doesn't matter. I shouldn't have to see captains come off the bench. What is this, Kurt Gidley for New South Wales? It's a pretty appalling stuff. You can't have your captain starting off the bench. And don't give me this reason on tactics and it's all tactical. And no, don't give me that. It's all garbage. All right, he had a bit of a limited preseason with his shoulder. Fair call. But you don't start him off the bench. You don't start your captain off the bench. It's an absolute no from me. You cannot be doing that. But look, on Melbourne, they got it done for Craig Bellami's 500th game as a head coach. And look, like I said, it's one that they're very lucky to win. Bellamy obviously wasn't too happy. He knew that they could have dropped that game, and he really needs them to lift this week against Parramatta, which we'll get to a bit later. But, the highlights for me are Harry Grant, 12 runs, 146 metres, 2 tries, just 42 tackles. I mean, he had a monster game. Josh King, 67 minutes, made 52 tackles and missed 2. So the big effort from him in defence. I'm loving what he's brought to the team so far. Really coming out of his shadow in Newcastle and really making an impact in that Storm side. Meanwhile, for the Rabbitohs, there were a few players that really caught my eye. I'll start off with Cameron Murray. I thought, his efforts coming off the bench, even though he was only for 8 minutes. 22 runs, 134 metres, chucking the line break assist and a tackle break, 3 offloads and 47 tackles. I mean, they're monster stats from Cameron Murray, and this is why he should be starting week in and week out. Look at other players like, Mark Nichols, 17 runs, 154 metres, 75 post-contact, with a tackle break, an offload, and 22 tackles. Tavita Totola, 15 runs, 149 metres. Jai Arrow, 40 runs, 146 metres. Totola, 76 post-contact with a tackle break and 30 tackles. When you look at Jai Arrow, 14 runs, 146 metres, 65 post-contact with 4 tackle breaks, an offload, and 28 tackles. I mean, big numbers. These boys are putting up big numbers, making big plays, and they start to get that momentum in that last bit of the game, but the Rabbitohs need to be better. You can't be completing at 61% and making 20 errors in the game to think you're a chance to win. Even though Rabbitohs had more possession, especially towards the end of that game, 29 from 47 is not good enough, and that won't win you any games. So Rabbitohs have to turn it around, and it only gets harder for them as they come up against the Roosters this week. Now, the Panthers 20 defeated the Dragons 16, and look, a very lucky win. If I'm going to be completely Frank Sinatra with you guys, it's a very lucky win for the Panthers. They played pretty well. Viliama Kikau in his 100th game, blown with 2 tries, and Panthers were really lucky to get away with that. They just got a couple of calls that went their way that got them through to win that game. For the Dragons, look, I don't think they were terrible. I actually thought they were pretty good. They had 2 sin bins, which I completely disagree with. Completely. Oh, let's discuss them. The first one, Sean O'Sullivan getting tackled by Jaden Sewer. When you're that dedicated to the tackle, when you're that committed to making that hit, it is almost impossible to get out of that. It's very hard. You can't get out of that. It's difficult. With that being said, there has to be a way for the refs to, and the bunker, to kind of acknowledge that. Because clearly it wasn't acknowledged. Sewell was too dedicated to the tackle and made that hit. That is play on every day of the week. Whether Sean O'Sullivan felt that burner from his neck down to his shoulder, or if he was actually just trying to get the penalty, who knows? But we need to be careful that we don't become way too soft. That sin bin is not a sin bin every day of the week. Then let's discuss the Zach Lomax one. Zach Lomax copped the sin bin for doing just a standard play, all because the refs thought that he was the fourth or fifth penalty within a certain period of time that he had to get binned. It was a garbage call. He shouldn't have been binned. So, look, again, a few calls that didn't go their way. And you kind of feel sorry for the Saints in that regard, but I thought they played pretty well. I thought they really held into the game and they really tried their best. Playing 60 minutes with 12 men is not easy. When you're a man down, it's a lot harder. And look, like I said, they did their best. They tried to come away with the goods. And look, it was unfortunate they couldn't do it at home, like those being dudded by those ref calls. But Panthers just hang on in the end and get it done. Now, Isaiah Yeo, freak, like I said, he's just probably the most mature playmaker, lock player in the comp. 15 runs, 151 meters, 4 tackle breaks, offload 42 tackles. Playing 80 minutes, week in, week out. I know that he had COVID leading up into the season as well, so he didn't really play any trials. And he's getting some crazy meters. Crazy minutes, and the meters he's making and the impact he's having as just another ball player in the side is next level. Jaden Sewer, I thought for the Dragons, I thought he was great, regardless of that sin bin. 16 runs, 145 meters, a try, line break, 4 tackle breaks, and an offload. And about 17 tackles. Really making an impact in that side, Jaden Sewer. Really good to see him finding his feet there at the Saints. Look, nothing too much to read into the Saints there. But like I said, kick out, obviously getting a win in his 100th game and having a good performance was very important for him, and doing it all for his family who are back in Fiji as well. So it was really good to see that from him, and Penrith remain undefeated. Now, the Roosters 26 defeated the Sea Eagles 12, and look, it honestly just took 1 week for the Roosters to kind of click into gear. Don't write off the Roosters and don't write off the Sea Eagles. I still have faith that the Sea Eagles will turn this thing around. And he could start this week against the Bulldogs. But on the game itself, it took 1 week for the Roosters to kind of click and to get everything happening and to get the ball rolling. And they really showed it was a mature performance from all their players. I thought Tupanua had a blinder. I thought Nat Butcher was great, scoring 2 tries. I thought just Sam Walker, just so good. He's put on a bit of size and it's starting. You can tell that he's bulked up a little bit. With that being said, I thought Kiri was great seeing the team. I thought Tedesco played a lot better. So a lot of things to look out there for the Roosters, and this is just the second round, so they're only going to get better from here. While Manly looked very, very clunky in attack, they didn't look their best. And look, the Seagulls have come up against the premiers of last year and the finalists of last year. These two teams are going to be top 4 end of the year. So they've had a tough start to the year, and they were very clunky in attack. And this is the second week in a row that the Roosters found a way to contain Tom Trbojevic and not let him run rampant and run loose. So Manly have a lot of work to do. Like I said, I know that they usually start the year pretty poor, but they need to focus. They need to start training harder, start prepping, getting Turbo to free it up a bit more. They can't keep relying on Turbo to come up with the magic. Some players need to step up in that side, and they need to be better. And obviously, as the season goes on, I'm believing that they will. Siasiawa Takiaho, huge game. 23 runs, 238 meters, 91 post-contact meters, a tackle break, offload 30 tackles in 60-odd minutes. Off the bench, you don't... crazy numbers from Takiaho. Victor Radley, I thought his performance was very solid. 16 runs, 145 meters, and 30 tackles. I thought he played really well. Like Isaiah Yeo, just a great ball-playing lock, and he offers so much to that Roosters side. Excuse me. Now, moving over to the Saturday games. And the Titans 20 defeated the Warriors 18. Look, for the Titans, a win's a win. They got through that game, and they started off really hot. Brimson, first touch of the ball for the season, makes a break, pass on to Firma. Firma runs the rest of the field and scores. Great start. But the Titans don't have the knack to play 80 minutes of football, and that's what they're really struggling with at the moment. I know they have a very young spine, but they need to figure out ways to get through it to play 80 minutes of football. Because at the moment, they don't seem to be doing that. They always slump in the middle periods of the game. They let the teams come back in and then try to hold them off. But I love what they did in attack. I love what they did in attack. I loved how, just some of their plays, like the cutout balls that were thrown were amazing, from Brimson, from Sexton, from Campbell, from Fafita. I thought they were both instrumental, both Firma and Dave Fafita in that game. They were both at their best, I believe. And both of them need to be playing 80 minutes. This whole playing Fafita for 55 minutes is stupid. He's an 80-minute player. And if it means that you can't have room for Kevin Proctor in your side, it is what it is. These men are both playing 80 minutes of football. They need to be playing 80 minutes week in, week out. They should be playing 80 minutes. There's no excuse. They're both having sublime game times. Both Firma has grown so much from leaving Newcastle, and what he's done in his game has been phenomenal. The Warriors, man, you can't chop and change your spine and expect things to work. Cody Nikorima got dropped, and Sean Johnson injured. Fair call. They brought in Shino Habas-Tavera and Ash Taylor. Ash Taylor I didn't think was terrible in his debut, but too many times they're chopping and changing. And like I said, Warriors are a team where if they get a roll on, they get a roll on, they're hard to stop. But then they're their own worst enemy. They drop balls, they miss tackles, they concede dumb penalties. Just a stupid mentality that they've got. They need to be better. But I'm loving what I'm seeing back onto the Titans. They're playing some great football. I'm loving what Philip Sammy's been doing. Greg Marzu has been very, very good for them. I'm loving Brian Kelly at the moment as well. Like I said, the whole backline has just been really impressive to me. And it's nuts now that the Titans have signed Jermaine Asako and they've got Corey Thompson come back from injury. The depth is really there. It'd be hard to see Marzu, get dropped. But look, he had 16 runs, 222 meters, 2 tries, 2 line breaks, 11 tackle breaks. I mean, he's a monster, this Marzu. And I'm glad to see that his potential is finally getting realised. And another play in both Firma, who I mentioned before. He had 12 runs, 173 meters, a try, line break, 5 tackle breaks, offload 27 tackles in 80 minutes. This guy is a freak in nature. And he's only going to get better. And I'm loving the style footy he's been playing at the Titans. And I'm looking forward to seeing him grow and potentially look at a player in an Origin jersey. He definitely doesn't look out of place for it. And he'll be someone I would love to see make an impact for Queensland and play some State of Origin. Another player who's caught my eye and has caught the eye of Coach Fittler is Josh Curran. He's been playing unbelievable football for the last, I don't know how long. He's been playing some great footy, and he's just an X factor in that side. The way he plays, he looks like he's like a little crafty 5'8". I love what he brings to the side, the aggression. He's great in attack, solid in defense. He's a talker. He's only 21 years old, so he's got a whole career ahead of him. And I'm loving what I've seen of him so far. He had 16 runs, 152 meters, 55 post contact, 3 tackle breaks, an offload, and to finish off 44 tackles. Adam Fanua-Blake, 53 minutes, 14 runs, 186 meters, 70 post contact with a line break, 3 tackle breaks, an offload, and to end it off with 14 tackles. So he had a busy one. Fanua-Blake came off a bit early due to a hand injury, but like I said, these men leading the forward pack for the Warriors are doing such a good job. Unfortunately, it's just they're not consistent enough, and it's really affecting them making an impact in this season, and which is why they are still languishing at the bottom of the ladder, and they haven't won a single game so far this year. The Johnny Manor Cup goes back to Cronulla. The Sharks 18 defeated the Eels 16. Very entertaining game of footy. First time in 930 days that the Sharks went out to their home ground in PointsBet Stadium, and they got up in the death. I mean, the Sharks' attack is next level. I love what the Sharks are doing in attack. I'm loving that they are so confident. They back each other. They play such a unique style of footy. Nico Hines is a threat every time he touches the ball. Look, obviously he's still a work in progress, but I'm loving what I've seen from him so far. But they took a lot of risks, especially that last play. Going down when he came to Nico Hines throwing that short ball, Matt Warden throwing a short ball to Teague Wilson to score. In the last play of the game, a risky play, but they got it done. Nico Hines also missing those 4 conversions before he actually went and nailed the 4th one. So he missed 3 conversions and then nailed the 4th one to win the game for them. The Eels, look, they weren't the worst. This wasn't a performance where the Eels got smashed and you start questioning where their heads are at. They controlled most of that game. They actually led most of that game and they put themselves in a position to win. But you cannot be missing 50 tackles a week. In the last 2 weeks, Parramatta have missed over 100 tackles. You can't be doing that. And Eels pride themselves on defense. You know, Brad Arthur's all about, you know, defending well and puts a lot of emphasis on defense. But from what I've seen, they defend so much that it starts to look very messy. You know, Isaiah Papali'i had about 7 missed tackles. Paula had about 5 missed tackles. You know, you can't keep missing tackles as often as you are and in big numbers as well. So that's my issue with the Eels at the moment. They're a bit ill-disciplined. And I genuinely believe that you can't be missing 50 tackles a week to consider yourself a top team in this competition. They let it go. They dropped the ball in the last minute. But the reason that Sharks won it to death was just a dumb decision by Ray Stone. A dumb decision. A cannonball tackle with a minute and a bit to go, and the Sharks are on their potentially last set of the game. All you got to do is tackle it normally. It was a 4th tackle as well. Just tackle normally, get him down, get back. If Sharks score from that play, Sharks score from that set. That's fine. But if they're not going to, and they're just going to grind it out and they're going to do an attempt and you tackle them, you win the game. The cannonball was the dumbest idea in the whole world. They shouldn't have gone with that idea. Ray Stone, I still don't understand sometimes how he's actually still in that squad. But look, they hold the Sharks up defensively. They win that game. And it was just a moronic idea for him to go in and, you know, and clip at the legs of the Sharks player that got tackled. Dumb. Just let him be. If he's still making meters, get another guy coming around the hips. You don't go for the legs and absolutely take the legs out. It's just pathetic play. But Mitch Moses, I thought was pretty good. I'm starting to see a lot more of Dylan Brown, which I've wanted to see. He had a poor year last year, and I saw him almost break the line a couple of times, looking more threatening, Dylan Brown, so it's good to see that from him. But look, that chip and chase from Mitch Moses, I thought was fantastic. I've missed the chip and chase. It's been a while since we've actually seen any. But I loved how Gutherson was also there, even though he had played the ball. He was also there to get the ball on, to get it to Brown, and then Brown to get it back to Moses. I loved that play. It was a very good play, unique play. 8-0 down, last play before halftime. Really hurt the Sharks because Eels got a bit of a roll on and made an impact. But look, it wasn't to be at the end. The Sharks get the victory for the first time in over 900 days at PointsBet Stadium in front of the Sharks faithful. And you love to see Toby Woodall celebrating with the fans later, right after that game. It's good to see. It's good to see, all the players back in the sheds and he's out there just hanging out with the fans, having a laugh with them. That's what you want to see. I miss that. And I've loved that the crowds are back and they're back at the suburban grounds because you really miss the players when they do that. And you miss that kind of feel that the players bring and the fans bring to those games. CSC for Talakai was one that impressed me the most. I thought, having to come in the centres with Mulatalo ruled out the rest of the game, but he had a big game. 16 runs, 151 metres, 74 post-contact metres, a line break, 3 tackle breaks, and 17 tackles. He was a standout player for me. Isaiah Papali'i, 19 runs, 174 metres, 67 post-contact metres, 4 tackle breaks, offload, 37 tackles. When players sign for another club and they have a year left, they usually get a bit complacent. Isaiah Papali'i is having another great start to the season. I'm really loving the effort he's putting in, really aiming to bring some sort of success to the Parramatta side before he departs at the end of the year. The Cowboys 26 defeated the Raiders 6. First win of the season for the Cowboys. And look, when you kind of think about it, it was pretty expected. The Raiders are missing about 6 or 7 players. They missed Nick Kotrick, who was late withdrawal to a quad strain. Jordan Rapana suspended. Jared Croker injured, back from his knee surgery, injured his back, New South Wales Cup. Jamal Fogarty out for the next few months. Josh Hodgson out for the year with that ACL injury, which we'll get to a bit after. And Brad Schneider, who had COVID. So that's about 6 or 7 players I've just mentioned who are so important to that side, who are missing due to injuries and COVID and everything else. Now, I get it. I get that you're missing a lot of these players. But the Raiders were still so poor. They were so bad. Charles Nickel-Klokstad did not have the best game. I don't know if it's time to start bringing in Xavier Savage, but Charles Nickel-Klokstad doesn't usually have poor games, but that game out on the weekend was a shocker. Dropped a couple of high balls. One of them went for, he got leapt over by Hamza Tabora-Fado, who scored that try near the posts. I mean, it was hard for them. But for the Cowboys, what was pleasing was their defense. I was very pleased with how they would be able to hold their headline. And when Raiders obviously kept attacking their line, they just held their ground and they held themselves together. And it really proved a monumental victory for the Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys are getting all excited. All their fans are getting pretty G'd up. But if you're defeating a depleted Raiders side, you can't be expecting too much. But the Raiders have to be better. They completed at 51% and made 15 errors in the game. A lot of drop ball, couldn't get out of their own half, put a lot of pressure to themselves, and they just lacked that creativity in the half. They lacked, Matt Foley couldn't really do much. Jack Whiting did his best, but it's hard if the players around him aren't really lifting either. But look, the Cowboys get their first win of the season. They'll take a bit of confidence into that, heading into their Queensland derby this weekend, and they'll be looking to try and get a roll on and try get some wins put through together. Now, Jason Taumalolo was a standout for me in another 55 to 60-minute performance. 14 runs, 161 metres, 70 post-contact metres, 2 tackle breaks, 25 tackles. A really big game from Taumalolo. It was really pleasing to see. Really trying to put all the public scrutiny behind him and really trying to just lead his team from the front in the availability of minutes that he plays and just trying to make an impact and try and make an example for his side. Now for one of the most boring games of rugby league that I've seen and one of the poorest games I've seen from a club in a very long time. The Knights 26 defeated the Tigers 4. Knights top of the table, 2 wins from 2 games. They just controlled the game the entire 80 minutes. They didn't take the foot off the pedal and they had Tigers at the throat every single time. Now, Jake Clifford and Adam Clune are playing some fantastic football. I'm loving Dane Gagai and what he's brought to this side. Dominic Young's playing fantastic. Tex Hoyle I thought was pretty solid as well. For them, all the players are chipping in. All the players are playing decent style footy. They brought in together what they're trying to do, and you can tell that they're loving every minute playing together. Look, they haven't had much of a challenge in the first 2 weeks. Obviously, the Roosters is a big win for them, but the Tigers are a bit of a whatever side. But let me just talk about the Tigers because they were disgusting. This was such a disgusting performance from the Tigers. That first half performance may be one of the worst I've seen in years. And not just from the Tigers. Probably in every game that's ever been played in the last few years. And I've seen some shocking games from the Bulldogs, let me tell you. The Tigers were so bad. Oh my god, errors. So many errors. Missed tackles. The Simbin into Peachy. You're 35 years old. You've had that many games experience. How are you continually making childish decisions? When you got sent from the field and you smiled at the camera. This is one of the 5 captains, and for crying out loud, I still don't know why they have 5 captains, but one of the 5 captains that they have who's meant to be a leader, who's meant to lead by example, and he dished out that garbage, smiling at the camera after getting simbin. You don't do that. You shouldn't, I'm lost for words. And then every week, they just want to pick a different captain. Oh, you can captain this week. Oh, you can captain. What is this? Under 14s? Where every member of the team gets to be captain for the week? It's poor. Ken Momalo. Look, I don't mind him as a player. He hasn't been the best for the Tigers. But he's not a vocal person. He's a shy kind of guy. Leadership maybe is more by his actions, but he's not a vocal person. And what's he going to do from the wing? What can he control from the wing? They've, 18 errors, 36 mixed tackles, completed 61%. Leilua was the only forward that ran over 100 meters. Come on. How are they this bad? And it's only round 2. How have they given up straight away? I just don't like it. I just don't like what I'm seeing from the Tigers. There's just such a basket case at the moment. Why are they so poor? Why are they so ill-disciplined? What is it? Are they really trying to get Maguire sacked? I don't understand. I mentioned all year last year, they're not buying into what Maguire's trying to do. And because they're not trying to buy into what Maguire's trying to do, it's making it a lot harder for Maguire to see light at the end of the tunnel. How do you go from performing so well against the Storm the week before? You dropped the game at the end, but you played solid for 60, 65 minutes, and you're coming in this week against the Knights. They beat him last year, 26 points to 6, convincingly last year. 26-12, something like that. And you just get stepped on. Defensively, they were trash. With the ball, they were trash. Their decisions are just dumb. It's so hard to be a Tigers fan. And I feel bad for all my mates that are Tigers fans, or all Tigers fans that I know out there. If I was you, I'd be revoking the memberships. It's a disgrace. They don't care. The players are dumb. They don't care. One thing on the Knights that actually really bothered me, I'll go to the Knights for a second here. You're up, and you're up a considerable amount, 12-0 or 18-0, and Tyrone Peachy gets in bid. Why are you taking the 2? Which coach in their right mind thinks it's such a good idea to go and take the 2? They have 12 men. They've sucked all game. What I'm not understanding Adam O'Brien's thought processes sometimes in really trying to get. I want to get an answer. Like, I want an answer for this because I just don't understand. If you're 12-0 up, don't kick a penalty. What? Okay, you're not confident that you can break through a side like the Tigers with 12 men? It's probably the easiest. Look, Knights, yeah, they're undefeated. Yeah, they're doing well, but it's little things like that. It's just, if they're down, you capitalize. It's just a struggle. This game actually frustrated me so much because the Tigers don't seem to care. They've already dropped off round 2. And they've got a long season ahead of them. The Tigers, they need to rebuild. There's so much that needs to get done, but they need to take it week by week. And Maguire needs to find that motivation for these players week in, week out, because right now they suck. And this is the lowest I've seen the Tigers been in many, many years. Tyson Frizzell, 18 runs, 191 meters, 65 post-contact meters, a brilliant try, 4 tackle breaks, offload, 25 tackles. Big plays from him. You know, I was really pleased with Tyson Frizzell and just exactly what he brought, you know, to that in that game. Like, it honestly made me so happy. Like, the football he's playing has been unbelievable. He was a real standout for me. I thought Mitch Barnett was fantastic at prop as well. And look, like I said, and also the Knights did all this without Callum Ponga, Dave Clemmer, Daniel Saifidi, and Jaden Brayley. Man, the Tigers are just the shambles. Last game of the round, the Broncos 16 defeated the Bulldogs 10. Broncos remaining undefeated, and it was quite an enjoyable game of football. You know, it was definitely a lot of errors. I thought the Broncos were going to absolutely demoralize us. I actually thought that they were going to smash us with Adam Reynolds back in and just put the game away. But they had to fight back. And 2 calls for those 2 tries. The obstruction one shouldn't have been a try. The one where he's sort of semi-held, I'm not sure about. Really, I'm not sure about. But the Broncos did enough to hold on. They got what they needed. That last play where Burden threw the cutout to Adokar, and Adokar put that grubber in, and Kelly came from nowhere and saved that try in the dying seconds. Unbelievable. Great play. And that really won them the game for the Broncos at the end. I never thought I was going to say this 2 weeks in, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. I am very proud of what I've seen from the Bulldogs. I know, I'm eating my words. I can't believe it myself. But I cannot believe at the performances I'm seeing from the Dogs. In attack, we need to polish it up. But that's the best attacking display of football I have seen from us in many years. Second phase play. Oh my goodness. Didn't Payne not see this in previous years? How did Trent Barrett not see this last year? Throw an offload. Get a bit of second phase play happening. Tevita Pangai comes in, throws about 10 offloads. Good. We gain an extra 10, 15 meters each play. I loved that. I just loved, our forward pack is so big and strong. Thompson making big meters. Hetherington making big meters. TPJ making big meters. Paul Vaughan making good meters. I mean, it's looking good. Our forward pack is starting to really show its potential. But what I'm most proud of is their defense. Goodness me, Broncos had a lot of opportunities at the line, and we just continued to hold them off. But look, we need to polish off our attack. We polish off our attack, and it looks a bit better. You don't know what we can do this year. I'm really optimistic. I'm so proud of us. I can't explain. But with the obstruction call, let me explain. You can't judge the play based off the player's reaction. That's something I've had to learn and understand. The bunker will give that a penalty every day of the week if the player falls to the ground. If it doesn't fall to the ground, the rule just goes completely out of their mind because they're watching the player and how it affects the player. And we've spoken about him many times on how you can't be lying down or faking a play because that's not what we are as a sport. But what? Just because he brushed his shoulder and it's still enough contact, it's a penalty. Every day of the week, it shouldn't have been a try. But the fact that it was a try, Jaden Okunbo, oh my goodness, he sucks. Jaden Okunbo is a liability in attack, and he is somehow of a liability in defense. He has to be dropped. I don't see how he keeps getting named every week. He offers nothing in attack. He looks out of place, out of place in defense, out of place on the line. He's just useless. And this is what frustrated me. This is the only thing that frustrated me from the Bulldogs game. Jared Ockenbaugh, tall fella, not small at all. Come up against Corey Oates, another tall guy. How does Albert Kelly kick it over your head? How do you not make a play for that? How are you so wrong-footed in that play? Ockenbaugh is a liability. And I'm dreading this game against the Eagles this week because if they fire, they're coming down Ockenbaugh's wing hard. And they're going to come at him big time. And it could be another 60-0 game if we're not careful. Barrett has to make some decisions. Avrilo's still not a 7. Ockenbaugh's still not a 2. But it was one of the best performances I've seen from Bulldogs in many, many years. And I genuinely mean that from the bottom of my heart. But let's just go through the Bulldogs stats. Why don't we just look at exactly what they've done? Because when you look at some of the plays they made, I mean, and some of the stats from these players, you look at Adokar making such an impact, from the wing, really trying his best to really, lift the side. I thought Dufty was great in attack as well. Line break assist, try assist, 24 runs, 203 meters. But it's our forward pack that I'm absolutely loving. Paul Vaughan, 14 runs, 132 meters. A tackle break, an offload, 19 tackles. If I look at Jack Hetherington, in the second row playing 80 minutes, 17 runs, 163 meters. Tavita Pangai, 20 runs, 148 meters. Corey Waddell. I have been ripping Corey Waddell for God knows how long because of how trash he's been. And this is the best game I have ever seen him play. And he played the entire 80 minutes. 20 runs, 189 meters, 73 post-contact meters, 3 tackle breaks, no offloads, and a tackling amount of 28. Unbelievable performance from Corey Waddell. Moved into the starting side and put Thompson off the bench. But come on. Great football. I mean, that's one of the best performances I've seen from Corey Waddell. Max King. Oh, what a buy. 10 runs, 87 meters. 2 tackle breaks, 3 offloads, 25 tackles in 38 minutes. Like, I'm proud. I'm genuinely proud of these stats. And I'm hoping we grind it. We just continue to be smart, not get smashed, and hopefully we get through a decent year. I really do. And I think we've got the next month coming up with the top 4 sides from last year. It's going to be tough, but you never know what could happen. All right, that's all talks that we had to discuss for round 2. Now, my Supercoach segment. Last week I finished on 932. Very piss poor. I've had $1.4 million sitting on my bench in Sean Johnson and Nathan Cleary. I only made one trade last week, 12 for 4 simply to Max King. Stuck with that trade. It was the only one that I'd done. Now, this week I've got to make some changes. It's a week of price rises. A couple of things haven't gone my way. Harry Grant ruled out due to COVID. So Randall's going to come into the starting side. Sean Johnson has to be traded out. I'm going to trade him in via Talatau Ammonia to the halves and put Peter Hiku in the centres. Angus Crichton got benched. That's going to really stuff me up. He's going to lose me a lot of money. So I'm going to downgrade him to Viliami Kickout. Make me about 170 odd grand. 160 grand. Kickout's going to go up a lot. His break-even's about minus 10 or so. So he's going to make money regardless. And then that'll be my 2 trades so far. Might do a 3rd trade. Keep it up my sleeve. I have about 350,000 to spend. Might boost up one of my backs, potentially, depending who I can afford and who would be the most reliable. So, look, very inclined to see what happens. Maybe I can try sniff out a potential Dane Gagai if I'm lucky. It's pushing it a little bit, but you just never know. That's what I'm looking at the moment. And I'll undefeated all my leagues, which is a big bonus. But look, on Supercoach, the prized Dream Team Cup trophy is leaving the desk. It will no longer be here in the studio. Very disappointing. Lost the competition last year in the finals to the team named Dirty Kebabs, so he'll be obtaining the trophy this year. Well, I've had some good memories with it, but that'll be gone as of next week, and I'll be looking to do what I can to win that trophy back, and just to see what happens this year. News around the NRL world. Jack Bird has no offers on the table. Really wants to stay at the Dragons, but isn't getting offered much at this stage. Wayne Bennett is keen to sign Jason Taumalolo. There's obviously a lot of rumours between him and Payton and a bit of a rift going on. He still has another 5-6 years on his deal Wayne Bennett has confirmed he'd love to have Taumaloto, but Wayne Bennett is trying to get Christian Wolf, the current St. Helens coach, who's won 3 grand finals in a row and is potentially looking at winning his 4th this year, the way things are going for them. What Bennett's trying to do is get him as assistant coach and then have him potentially trained up to take over Bennett when he finishes up his contract. So if they can get Christian Wolf, they will definitely try to get into Taumaloto's ear about coming over to the Dolphins. Cam Munster, I mentioned last week, he's been offered a 2-year, $1.6 million deal. But he's looking to reject that contract extension because of the pay decrease that he's copped. Now, Braden Astor confirmed as well, seeing as that he's his new player agent, that Cameron Munster, Jerome Hughes, and Harry Grant will have a decision to make by Wednesday afternoon in terms of organising their contracts. If they're going to stay with Melbourne, or they're going to head to the Dolphins, or they're going to explore the open market. It's a big decision that are going to be made, and there's a deadline tomorrow afternoon for that. The Dolphins, if they miss out on Harry Grant, however, have Jake Turpin in their sights. Bennett will look to bring him in from the Broncos and really build him up and make him a dynamo player. Parramatta being sued by a third-party company for payments not being made to them, called Black Citrus. They're being sued for $1 million, so that's in the courts at the moment. A bit on the Cowboys. Jordan Mclean is negotiating a new deal with the Cowboys. He's on about $850,000 a year, which is completely ludicrous considering he is not that good. He had a great year last year, but since he's moved from Storm to Cowboys, has completely gone garbage. And that also means that Marty Tapau will not be joining the Cowboys either. It was just a rumor. Doesn't look like anything's going to be sold there. And the biggest swerve so far, I'll put it up on my socials today. If you missed it, I'll explain it now. Jermaine Asako was released from the Broncos today. It was tipped as going to Parramatta. They've been chasing him for months. They really wanted to get the ball rolling and try to get him in to boost their stocks in the wing. He then goes and signs a deal with the Titans. Didn't see that coming. I think it's a decent signing. I think it's more of a depth signing. I mentioned the backs before. You got Corey Thompson, Brian Kelly, Philip Sammy, Patrick Herbert. You got Greg Marju. You now got Jermaine Asako. You got Isan Masters. So they've got some depth there. And Asako can play fullback, can play wing. He's a goal kicker. It's a good pickup. Generally good pickup. He'll be at the Dolphins 2023 for 3 years. But I kind of like the signing from the Titans, and I love that they screwed Parramatta. I love it. For me, you love to see it. Genuinely, you love to see it. And George Burgess has been, at this stage, named in the 24-man squad for the Dragons, but due to sexually touching women without consent, he was being charged with that as well. The NRL will make a decision on whether he will be able to continue to play or he will fall under the no-fault policy, the stand-down no-fault policy. But moving over to the talking points and my tips for round 3. Dragons come up against the Sharks. Moses Mbye will place McCulloch in the side due to an elbow injury in the starting side. Jackson Ford and Jack Kajewski will join the bench and take the spot of George Burgess, who, like I mentioned, is under police investigation at the moment. For the Sharks, Ronaldo Militado is out with concussion, replaced by Matt Ikuvalu, and CC Fatalakau replaces Teague Wilton, who's suspended for a week. And Braden Trindle will come into the side on the bench, making his first appearance for the season, returning from suspension. It's a tough game, this one. I think I'm going to stick with the Dragons at home. I think they're going to have a ripper of a game. It'll be a tough one. It'll be really tight. Still kind of leaning towards Sharks, but at this stage, I'm going to go Dragons. Also, another thing you got to mention, keep an eye out for late mail. Very important. It changes a lot of things. It changes your tips as well. So this is all coming out before late mail, so make sure you're always checking out the late mail. Tigers come up against the Warriors on Friday night. James Tamo is in the starting side, pushing Alex Twal to the bench. Luke Garner will start in the side and take the spot of Kelma Tuolagi, who's out with a concussion. And Jacob Little makes his first appearance this year, takes the spot of Jake Sibkin, who's been moved to the bench. And Alex Seyfarth and Thomas McKaylee drop out of the side. For the Warriors, Cody Nikorima, who was dropped, comes in to replace Ashley Taylor, and the only change to the side, who's out with a hip injury and should just be out for the week. I'm going to go the Warriors here. I think they'll get their first win of the season. I think Tigers are just so crap, and it's really hard for them to win a game, and especially with Jackson Hastings missing for the next 3 weeks due to suspension, and Jock Manor coming into the side, which I forgot to mention as well. So they're going to make it tough for the Tigers to win this one. So I'm going to go the Warriors in this game. Rabbitohs versus Roosters. Tane Milner, Jackson Paulo swap between centre and wing. For the Rabbitohs. For the Roosters, the only change in that, Butcher starts in the starting side, replacing Angus Crichton, who's been moved to the bench. I'm going to go the Roosters here, and a bit convincingly. Now, I know that the Rabbitohs will step it up. I'm just not really confident in them at the moment, especially lacking that direction. I think Roosters, who'd be geared up from last week in the game that they had last year, these two sides had last year, I think Roosters will definitely be able to get over the top of the Rabbitohs in this game. Top of the table clash is coming a little bit early. The Panthers come up against the Knights. Taylor May will take the spot of Brian To'o, who's out for 6 to 8 weeks with an MCL injury. And Nathan Cleary's been named the jersey 24. I'm hearing he will play. Now, if he plays, it's big for my Supercoach side, but it's also massive for the Panthers. But I know they're not looking to rush him, so we'll see what happens. Before the Knights, Callum Ponga returns from injury at fullback, taking the spot of Tex Hoy. Daniel Saifidi returns, pushing Mitch Barnett to the second row, and pushing Lachlan Fitzgibbon out of the side due to a knee injury. Oh, it's a tough one, this game. I'm going to go the Panthers. I think they'll have what it takes to just get over. And if Cleary plays, definitely Panthers. If he doesn't play, I'm still going to go Panthers. But it'll be really a good test for the Knights early on to see, how they're tracking, especially from their last 2 weeks as well. The Storm will be coming up against the Eels in Melbourne. Harry Grant has copped COVID and will be replaced by probably Tyron Wishart at the end of the week. But the Storm are yet to make a call on that. Brendan Smith has been named in the reserves 1 week after breaking his hand. So it could be a smoky to come in and play 80 minutes at 9. For the Eels, Nathan Brown will go into the starting side, pushing Oregon Kafusi over to the bench. And Will McGregor will take the spot of Jacob Arthur, who has had an appendectomy and will be out for the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'm going to go I was going to go Storm. I was very confident in Storm. I'll still back him, but I wouldn't be surprised if Eels come out and win this one. So it's probably a tough one. I'm leaning more towards Storm at this stage. Raiders come up against the Titans. For the Raiders, Nick Kotrick and Rapana are returned from a quad injury and suspension. They take the spot of James Schiller and Sebastian Chris, who have been dropped. Brad Schneider comes back into the side from COVID, replaces Matt Forley, who's been moved to the bench, and pushing Adrian Trevelyan to the reserves. While the Titans will be 1 to 17 this week. And Raiders get 3 players back, which is really important. Kind of see them winning, if I'm going to be completely honest. I do see them win, but I think I'm going to stick with the Titans this one. I think they're in too good form at the moment, and I believe they'll get one over the Raiders. The Broncos come up against the Cowboys in the Queensland Derby. A few derbies in this weekend, for what I've just seemed to notice. Broncos will be 1 to 17. The Cowboys, Ruben Cotter takes the spot of Mitch Dunn, who's done his ACL, and unfortunately he's out for the year. I'm going to go the Broncos. I'm loving that. I'm seeing enough of what they're doing, and now their first game, the second game at Suncorp, and the first one for Adam Reynolds, I think he's going to relish it, and I think he'll be instrumental in that game, and they'll win over the Cowboys. In the last game of the round, Seagulls come up against the Bulldogs. Both teams at 1 to 17. I'm going to back the Bulldogs again, but look, the Seagulls can really change it on its head, so it's a tough one for you guys, but I'm always going to back my doggies. Guys, thanks so much for joining me on another great episode of League Chat with the Stat. You know where to find us on our socials. You know about Tipping Comp that's been running for the last few weeks. All the information's on our last few podcasts, so you can get it there if you want to join if you're a little bit late. And that'll be all to cover, but I appreciate you joining me this week for a new episode. Appreciate your support. Let's keep it going. We've expanded out to 12 countries now, so we have 12 different countries listening to the podcast, so I'm loving the support at the moment. Let's keep it going. If you haven't liked us on Facebook and Instagram, on YouTube, and subscribe to us, please get onto it. Share it around to your mates. Share it on your socials. Let's get this podcast pumping. But like I said, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining me on a new episode this week. Enjoy round 3. Excited to see what happens. And excited to hopefully see the Doggies get a win over the Sea Eagles. Have a good weekend, guys. Enjoy the footy. Take it easy. And we'll see you same time next week. All the best.